The waves of the sea gently touched the sand, while the golden sunlight danced across the deep blue water. This was Crestwood Bay, a small coastal town at the edge of the city. Most of the people here were fishermen, and life moved slowly yet heavily, like each day breathed in rhythm with the sea. Elias, a 42-year-old fisherman, had lived here for the past 20 years. His face was sunburnt, his eyes weary, but deep inside there was still a faint spark. A small boat was tied near his home, and he often sailed out alone. But for the past 2 years, a weight had rested in his heart. Elias searched the waters for days, but Mara never returned. Since that day, he hadn't stepped into a church or opened a Bible. 2 years earlier, a terrible storm had taken away his wife, Mara. She was returning home from church when heavy rain and fierce winds made the road slippery, and her car skidded straight into the sea. One October evening, while Elias sat on the shore mending his nets, he noticed a young woman standing nearby. She had a camera in her hand and was taking pictures of the waves. He had never seen her here before. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said without looking at him. "Yes, it is," Elias replied softly. "But sometimes it takes everything away." She walked closer and introduced herself as Hannah, a filmmaker from the city working on a documentary about life by the sea. The next day, she returned and asked Elias if she could spend a day on his boat to capture the real life of fishermen. The following morning, before sunrise, they set sail. The sea was calm, though a faint rumble could be felt deep beneath the waves. Hannah asked many questions about fishing methods, the effect of the weather, and the struggles fishermen faced. Then, for a moment, she went silent, gazing at the sky. "You know," she said, "my father was also a fisherman. We lost everything in a storm, but he used to say, 'The sea is in God's hands, and so are our lives.'" It was the first time in 2 years that Elias had heard words like that. A week later, Hannah invited him to take photos of the old church by the shore, a church Elias and Mara had once attended. He hesitated, but went. The church was empty, sunlight streaming through its windows, painting golden patterns on the wooden floor. On the wall hung an old cross. Elias felt as if someone had gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Memories rushed back, Mara's smiling face and her voice when she sang in worship. At the end of November, a massive storm was predicted. All the fishermen were moving their boats to safe locations, but Hannah's team had a small drone camera stuck out in the middle of the sea, and she insisted on retrieving it. "This is not the time to take such a risk," Elias warned. "It's not just a machine, it holds the footage my entire project depends on," Hannah replied. Something stirred in Elias's heart, a memory of the last day with Mara when she had said, "Never leave someone in need behind." He prepared his boat, and together they set out into the storm. The waves tossed the boat up and down. Lightning lit up the dark sky. Using a fishing net, Elias managed to pull the drone out of the water, but on their way back, a massive wave nearly capsized the boat. In that instant, a verse came to his mind, Psalm 107:29. He stilled the storm to a whisper. The waves of the sea were hushed. Elias prayed silently, and to his amazement, the wind began to ease. Slowly, they made it back to shore. The next morning, Hannah arranged a small prayer gathering at the church. She told everyone how Elias had saved her life and how God had protected them in the middle of the raging sea. Elias sat quietly on a bench and, for the first time in years, opened his Bible. That day, he read, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29:11. A weight began to lift from his heart. A few months later, Hannah's documentary was completed, titled The Sea and Faith. It included Elias's story. By then, Elias had returned to attending church regularly. He began teaching young fishermen not only how to sail, but also how to read the Bible. The sea still brought storms, but Elias now knew he was never alone.